Sydney Vogl. Who recently won the Cow Creek Chapbook Prize for their chapbook, CRYBABY. There's copies back there. Yes. Grab it. And the Jane Underwood Poetry Prize. Their work has been featured in or is forthcoming in Iron Horse Review, Honey Literary, Tusculum Review, and Go City Review. She currently serves as a poetry editor for the San Franciscan Magazine, which you should subscribe to and check out, also dope. And works at an independent publisher in Berkeley. Their debut chapbook, California is Going to Hell, was released in November 2021. Let's give it up.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having us. This has been a really wonderful night, and everyone's just been incredible. Can we give it up for the... As I was thinking about poets that inspire me, I was thinking about teachers I've had that kind of have also given me the gift of more teachers by introducing me to other poets. And so the poem I brought is called Introduction to Quantum Theory by Franny Choi. And last month at AWP, I was at a reading and I saw Franny Choi having a very emotional conversation with Patricia Smith. They were both crying. I don't know what they were talking about, but I witnessed it and it felt like a moment in history. So Introduction to Quantum Theory. There are only so many parallel universes that concern us. In one, he isn't dead. In another, you drink light with your hands all winter. There is a universe in which no one is lying emptied in the street as the gas station burns. A universe in which our mothers haven't learned to wrap their bones in each small grief they found. There's a universe in which there is no difference between the past and the ground, another where the ocean pulls the moon, and so on. This is an incomplete list. It has been abridged for your comfort. I could tell you about the many universes in which bad things happen to people other than the people you love. Yes, in another life, it's someone else's sister who climbs to the roof that night. In another life, the boys rise darkly from the asphalt to choke the engines of cruisers, and no one gives birth chained to a hospital bed, and no one's child washes blue ashore. Sure, you can have these worlds. You can warm them in your hands at night, but no, by signing, you agree also to be responsible for the universe where the oceans glow red. The universe where what we call shadow is pulsing with the musk of hooves, and especially the one in which humans exist, but only in the nightmares of small children. Will you hold that one too? The version of the story that never learned to consider sound, and the one where sound is only the opposite of metal, and the one where the sound of metal is never enough to quiet the dead. So I'm going to read a couple poems from my chapbook, CRYBABY, which fittingly has a lot of water damage on it right now. They laid on it somewhere off the highway in Colorado, almost to California, to a shower and a new apartment with a cypress in front, and that was too heavy for a Tuesday. They tell you about the crack in the floor to tell you how it got there. When they straddled the kitchen island and fought a boy for their last innocence, a vase full of flowers tipped over the edge and lit up the floor. Okay, this next one, CRYBABY kind of explores my definition of gender and how that kind of became very fluid within the pandemic. I feel like it was the first time that I had space to realize how much I was catering to the male gaze and what felt good in my body. So this poem is called At 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, I Start Questioning My Gender. I only ever knew two ways to be a woman. I wanted both and neither. My father's sun-drowned shirt on my back with my mother's lipstick smeared across my chin. Whatever it meant to be tolerated in a strangle of boys at recess, whose tongues were not yet serpents, whose hands had not yet grown inside me, I wanted that. I take a cleaver between the summer my chest grew ripe and fattened, and everything before that. My womanhood erects within a hall of mirrors, and my mother says it's supposed to be this way. Fingerprints layered on top of each other so I can't tell which are mine. There have been so many hands, and no one looks me in the eyes anymore. Most days there's a moth living between my palms. I spend nights feeding her safety with cupped hands. I tell her I'm afraid my femininity is a collage of what I think it means to be a woman. I tell her what I can't tell anyone, that every Sunday I husk myself into the grass and walk home lighter. My doctor thinks I'm getting the IUD to prevent pregnancy, and I let her. I don't bother explaining the blood is the latest flood of inconceivability. My favorite season is the month where mangoes are perfectly ripe, but no one knows yet. There are no fingers tearing into flesh-sucking meat from pit. They sit untouched in the grocery store, passed up in flavor of berries, still sweet, but most importantly, easy. No one trusts the mango to be soft yet. I'm gonna read some new-ish stuff. This first one is called If You Need a Reason. It's kind of about how in certain relationships, survival can mean becoming a shapeshifter and all the things that you might turn yourself into to have some self-preservation. If you need a reason. Because you are a ghost in a baseball hat. Because you're a mouse skittering between boots, avoiding all things that might devour you, like the girl's fingers on the flesh of your thigh. Because every day you make yourself into a Sunday afternoon so the air around you is easy, the choice to stay is easy. Because you are the ripest, juiciest apple at the market, and they genetically modify apples now so she can't bruise you. Because a mirror might be better, perched on the stained couch across from her. So you are a mirror. You say what you want for dinner at the same time. She wants dumplings. Because you are the entire universe holding the space she needs, you'll go to one end of the Milky Way and she'll go to the other. Because you are a splayed open frog and her finger is the scalpel, she takes what she wants of your brains and your rubbery bones and what you ate for lunch yesterday. Because a year later, at a dive bar, you will tell friends a story of a girl who turned you into a honeybee. Because you thought if you stung her, you'd have to amputate parts of yourself. Because you are a firework lit up only in the daytime. Because eventually you won't even remember to tell the story. Because you are a Valentine's card. You dote and dote and dote on her plastic pink heart. Because when you run into her in the park, it's been 3 months and you are a movie theater. Feel the booming in your chest. You do an impression of someone who knows how to make a graceful exit. Because you are a half Novocaine mouth and this is how she likes you best. Because eventually you'll practice forgetting what the tattoos on her chest spell out. You will turn snake. This is not a metaphor about shedding what you don't need. You will learn how to swallow whole and alive. This is my last poem. It's called Death Bloom. I was on a road trip and the person I was with taught me about these things called death blooms that grow kind of out of the apex of succulents and oftentimes can be fatal. And it'll bloom really beautifully and then the plant's dead. And once you see it, it's already too late. And I thought that was a very poetic metaphor for life and how we all have our own death blooms and we just can't see them. So this is kind of the poem that came out of that. Pull your body out of the mud and dress it in your grandmother's fleece sweater. Find the person you still think about on a Sunday morning when your lonely bones have faded pink and pull open their curtains. Tell them it's the last warm day of the season, even if it's not, and slice an apple so thin you can see the whole San Francisco skyline through it. And let the slices melt on your tongue, because nothing matters in a way that means everything matters. Because you are calculating how fast you can get to the coral reefs and not thinking of the washing machine which has flooded twice this month, or the way your father's breath caught against his teeth when you were 12 and he was volcanic. Don't you see? Your chest is blooming, and we should push the living room furniture against the walls so there's more room for swimming, and touch the temple of your mother's graying hair, because now we can see the boulder tumbling towards us. But it's always been there, hasn't it? Haven't your ears always been waiting for the sound of a car rolling off the cliff? And you said you would learn to cook if you had more time. And speaking of time, there is none. You are already an exposed nerve being plucked away. Thank you.